Nemo backwards. The other fish hurry and send Nemo a toy kelp strand to grab onto and pull him out shaken. Peach asks Gil not to send Nemo in the filter again. Sullen and realizing his plan put Nemo in grave danger, Gil says they're done. Meanwhile, Marlin wakes up to find himself resting on the shell of a laid-back sea turtle with a surfer's attitude who introduces himself as Crush, Andrew Stanton. Incredulous, he discovers that he's also riding along the eek with dozens of other sea turtles and large fish. Marlin is reunited with Dory, who sports a scar on her side from the jellyfish stings, and meets Crush's son, Squirt, Nicholas Bird. Marlin also meets Crush's spirited son, Squirt. While playing with the other sea turtles, Squirt is accidentally propelled outside the current. Marlin is panicky at first, however Crush convinces him that Squirt can handle himself. Squirt is able to swim his way back into the current and gleefully joins his father. Marlin sees that even the youngest among the turtles can learn to survive in the ocean. Having been told some details of their journey and the encounter with the jellyfish, Squirt and the other hatchlings ask Marlin to tell them the rest of the story. Hesitant at first, Marlin relents and begins with when Nemo was abducted. His story is not ignored, it's passed on from turtle to fish to dolphin to bird and onward until it reaches Nigel the pelican. Hearing Nemo's name, he flies off to the dentist's office. There, Nemo tries to apologize to Gil for the botched escape attempt, but Gil says that his eagerness to escape almost cost Nemo his life and that nothing should be worth that. Nigel arrives, crashing into the closed window, but recovers and is able to tell Nemo the story of Marlin's journey as it was told to him. When Nigel suggests that Nemo's father took on 3 sharks and a school of jellyfish, Nemo is newly impressed with his father. Invigorated, Nemo takes it upon himself to try the filter attempt again, and, this time, succeeds. Marlin and Dory continue along the eek until they come to their exit point, where Crush and Squirt show them where to depart the main line. After a confusing instructional speech on proper exiting technique, Squirt pushes them into the exit flume and back into open water. Thanking Crush, Marlin asks the turtle how old he is. Crush answers that he's 150 years old and still young. They are instructed to continue through a large purplish plume of plankton to Sydney. However, they soon become lost and Dory resolves to ask a distant fish for directions. Though Marlin is afraid at first, he decides to trust Dory and she calls out to the distant figure. When she sees it's a minke whale, she starts speaking whale, asking for help. Marlin grows frustrated with her again just as a whale approaches from behind and pulls them into its mouth. Back in the fish tank, a couple of days' worth without a filter has rendered every surface covered in green algae. When the dentist sees this, he opts to clean the tank the following morning before Darla's arrival. Nemo looks at the window to the harbor outside, wondering if his father is there already, waiting for him. In the whale's mouth, Marlin and Dory remain safe with enough water to swim in. Though Dory is complacent, Marlin futilely attempts to break out by ramming into the whale's baleen. He yells at Dory for claiming to have spoken whale, calling her insane and lamenting over the fact that he'll never see his son again. Dory tries to console him as the whale emits a call and the water in the mouth begins to drain. The whale then lifts his tongue to push Marlin and Dory to the back of its throat, but Marlin refuses to let go until Dory assures him that, though she doesn't know what will happen, everything will be alright. Marlin closes his eyes and releases his grip on the whale's tongue. They fall to the back of the throat, where they are then shot out of the whale's blowhole, landing in Sydney Harbor. Overjoyed to have finally arrived, Marlin sends his thanks to the whale and encourages Dory to help him find the boat that took Nemo. The following morning, Peach wakes up with a horrified realization that the tank is suddenly clean. The fish find that the dentist had installed a new high-tech filter the night before and, though they are impressed with the fluid functionality of the device, they worry about what they will do when Darla arrives. The dentist suddenly pulls Nemo up in a fish net, but Gil and the other fish swim into it and instruct Nemo to swim down, pulling the net into the tank and away from the dentist's grip. Despite their efforts, Nemo is quickly scooped up in a plastic bag and set on the counter. The other fish tell Nemo to roll out the window, but, before he can get far, the dentist places the baggie in a tin to keep him from moving. Gil tries to assure Nemo that he'll be okay, but, at that moment, Darla crashes into the office. Marlin and Dory continue to search the harbor, both tired from looking at boats all night, when they are scooped up in the beak of a pelican. The pelican lands on a nearby dock and swallows them, but Marlin refuses to have come this far just to be breakfast. He lodges himself and Dory in the pelican's neck, causing it to start choking. Nearby, Nigel wakes from a nap to notice the pelican, Jerry, choking and flies down to assist. He hits Jerry in the back, expelling Marlin and Dory from his mouth onto the dock, where Marlin shouts out that he needs to find Nemo. Recognizing the name, Nigel turns to Jerry excitedly and tells him this is the fish that they've been hearing about. When he turns back to Marlin, he sees that he and Dory have flopped their way towards the end of the dock. Nigel chases after them, but they are all forced to freeze when they notice that they are surrounded by hungry seagulls. When Nigel tells Marlin that he knows his son, Nemo, Marlin flips in excitement, causing the seagulls to rush forward, but Nigel manages to take Dory and Marlin in his mouth and fly off. Darla torments the fish in the tank before going in to see her uncle. As he picks up the baggie with Nemo inside, he notices Nemo floating upside down. The other fish quickly realize that Nemo is feigning death so that he can be flushed down the toilet, but the dentist moves towards the trash can just as Nigel arrives in the window. Marlin forces Nigel into the office and the dentist drops the baggie. Marlin sees Nemo floating and believes him to be dead as the dentist grabs Nigel and forces him out the window again, Marlin calling out to Nemo. Hearing his name, Nemo pops upright, but Darla takes the bag and starts shaking it, trying to wake up the fish. Gill lodges himself into the top of Mount Wanahakalugi and the force of the bubbles propels him out of the tank. He lands on Darla's head and she drops Nemo's bag on a table full of tulle, breaking the plastic. Gill falls off Darla's head next to Nemo and flips him into the sink and down the drain using a magnifying scope as a catapult. The dentist quickly puts Gill back into the tank where he can breathe. Gill tells the others not to worry about Nemo, that all drains lead to the ocean. Darla is upset and receives a squirt of water in her face from the sink. Nemo travels down the piping until he reaches a water treatment filtration, a series of piping that travels on the sea floor out of the harbor. Nigel flies out of the harbor with Marlin and Dory and releases them into the water, offering his condolences. Distraught, Marlin thanks Dory for helping him and begins to swim away. She asks him to stay with her and that her memory is better when he's around, that she doesn't want to forget. Marlin refuses and swims away, leaving her alone. Nemo emerges from the piping and calls out for his father. He finds Dory swimming confusedly under a buoy, saying that she's lost someone but can't remember. Nemo offers to search with her and Dory happily complies, though she doesn't recognize him. As they swim together, Dory comes upon a piece of piping and reads Sydney on it. Suddenly, all of her memories come flooding back to her and she rushes at Nemo, hugging him fiercely, before leading him in the direction Marlin went. They find out that Marlin headed towards fishing grounds and reunite with him amongst a large school of fish. The school of fish then cries out in panic as a large net from a fishing boat above envelopes them. Dory is caught up in the netting and Nemo says that he must swim in and instruct the fish to swim down. Though Marlin fears for Nemo's safety, he lets go and allows Nemo to do what he can. Marlin instructs the panicked fish from outside the net and they all soon start swimming and sink downwards, pulling the net with them until it finally snaps away from the boat, freeing all the fish. Marlin and Dory find Nemo under the heavy net. Marlin is stricken with grief, believing Nemo is dead. Nemo regains consciousness and Marlin gently tells him that he found out that sea turtles live to be 150 years old. Marlin and Nemo come to an understanding and all three go back to their home in the reef. Marlin's demeanor has changed for the better and he is more upbeat and confident in his son's abilities. He takes him to school where Dory is dropped off by Bruce, Anchor, and Chum, who have included Dory in their vegetarian program. Nemo hugs his father before heading off on another field trip with Mr. Ray. Marlin watches them leave, knowing that his son will be alright. Back at the dental office in Sydney, the dentist curses the high-tech filter which disappeared from the counter. Horns honk out the open window as Peach is the last to cross the street. And thank you for watching. Like and subscribe
now
for
go
more
have an
videos
adventure.
like this.